Today you join me inside the 2019 Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, and if I had to pick one single word to describe this car, that word would be adequate. It's not the best SUV I've ever seen, but at a price tag of under $30,000, it's also not the worst. It has some issues with build quality, it's a little bit underpowered, the exterior is a little bit controversial, but all around when you take a look at the price and the features it comes with, and the fact that Mitsubishi is a relatively small manufacturer, I think it is a rather adequate car. In today's video, I'm going to walk you guys around the exterior and interior features of this 2019 Eclipse Cross SE to help you decide if it's the right cheap SUV for you. Let's get right into the video. Now, the exterior design of the 2019 Eclipse Cross is actually pretty controversial. Some people love it, some people hate it. For me personally, I honestly don't think it's that bad. In fact, the front fascia area, what we're looking at right here, reminds me, oddly enough, of the new Lamborghini SUV, the Lamborghini Urus. I'll even put up a picture for comparison. This odd-styled Mitsubishi grille with all the open vents, the gloss black, and the chrome, along with these standard LED daytime running lamps, somehow it just comes together and it reminds me of a Lamborghini. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in a car like this. I love these standard chrome accents you get around the grille and through the grille. They really create a striking effect on the front end of this car. Like I said, standard LED daytime running lamps, so you get a very sharp look from these, as well as somewhat better nighttime visibility, and just some enormous fog lamps down here. And they could have put some sort of fake vent like a lot of other manufacturers would have done. Instead, they decided to put these large, somewhat outdated looking fog lamps. They're not bad, but I don't necessarily love them either. And moving along to the side of the car, it continues that somewhat funky but also very aggressive design. It's not too bad on the side. You've got some muscular lines going across it that really highlight the proportions of this car, as well as available 16 or 18-inch wheels. This model features the upgraded 18-inch wheels with a cool gloss black and contrasting chrome design. It's actually pretty cool. So all around, from the front and the side view, this car is actually a pretty good design. Unfortunately, if the front end of the Eclipse Cross reminds me of something like a Lamborghini Urus, the rear end reminds me of something like a Pontiac Aztek, and that means I think it's just a little bit ugly. It comes standard with this LED light bar that kind of splits the window into two different areas. You're going to see once we hop into the interior that this blocks rear visibility just a little bit, and then the rest of the design is just kind of plain and boring. We've got some chrome highlights, a lot of matte black here down by the bumper guard, and it just looks slightly outdated and a little bit too funky for me. So I'm not a big fan of the rear design, but you know, all things considered, the side and the front are pretty good. So I'd say all around, it is a decent looking car that I could live with on a daily basis if I had to. But again, you know, the styling of this car is pretty much up to personal opinion. And under the hood, the Eclipse Cross is powered by a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 152 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. Again, that's decent, that's acceptable, but it's not great. However, it is paired with a CVT transmission that's continuously variable. It's supposed to be a lot smoother out on the road, and it also helps the car get a combined 27 mpg, which I have to admit is actually pretty good. And if you ask me, the interior is very similar to the exterior. It's decent, it's not the worst I've seen. I could live with it on a daily basis, especially for under $30,000. But at the same time, it's not nearly as good as its competitors from Honda and Toyota. The first thing I noticed when I got in was all this gloss black plastic all around the entire car. This is a material that was pretty common in cars from 4 or 5 years back. They would stick this stuff all over the place. And then they realized that once you buy a car with gloss black, you start touching this stuff and getting dust on it, it gets dirty very easily. Pretty much any small scratch, any nick, any tiny little bit of dandruff that you get on this gloss black is going to stand out in stark contrast to the entire interior, and it just doesn't look that good. But if you can look past all of that, you know, forgive its faults in terms of the trim pieces, then there are actually some pretty nice features in here. It comes standard with a cloth interior and 6-way manually adjustable front seats. It has seating for up to 5 passengers with a decent amount of headroom and legroom in the front and the rear, as well as a surprisingly good amount of cargo space. Now, if you want to upgrade this interior, give it a more premium feel, you can opt to have leather in here, so leather seats, leather wrapped steering wheel, leather wrapped gear selector, and that's definitely going to help it feel a lot more premium and a lot more livable, but it's not going to get rid of all this gloss black. So no matter how you option this car out, it's just going to have this cheap feeling material all over the place that I really kind of hate, to be honest. But on a more positive note, it does come with an available panoramic sunroof, a 7-inch infotainment touchscreen that we're going to talk more about in just a minute. You've also got available dual zone climate controls, a little info screen there on the gauge cluster, and a fairly decent design here on the center console area. As you can see, we have the all-wheel drive controls here. We've also got the controls for the available heated seats, as well as a touchpad, which is going to help control that infotainment system. You've also got 2 cup holders, a couple USB charge ports, and a rather spacious center armrest box where you could keep, a variety of different things, such as the standard key fob. But again, we've got cheap looking chrome trim around it, and then we've got gloss black on top of it, and it just doesn't feel very good. Now, I'd like to take a quick moment to look at this 7-inch infotainment touchscreen that comes in the 2019 Eclipse Cross. It comes standard with a lot of cool features like Bluetooth connectivity, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, so you can hook your phone up to this system and see your apps from your phone displayed on this screen, which is a really great feature that most cars in this segment offer. Now, it is a touchscreen if you want to use it, but there is a little bit of lag from it, and it's not the easiest system to use with your finger. It's just not as smooth as I would like it to be. So that's why they also included a bit of a touchpad to make it a bit easier. And the touchpad works basically the same as the touchscreen would, but it's a little bit easier to get to, more convenient, and it feels a little bit more rough on your hands, but it's in general a lot easier to use. So here on the home screen, we can see all the different settings and apps this car has. I'm not really liking the main menu design, unfortunately. It just seems like there's a lot of wasted space and so many different screens to cycle through. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 different screens on the home screen to show all your different apps. And I feel like they could have made them maybe just a little bit smaller, maybe even enlarged the screen so that you could fit all of those on maybe 1 or 2 pages instead of 4. So it could be easier to navigate, but you also have things like the vehicle info and the vehicle settings and a ton of different options in here to configure this screen and the car to your liking. So that is good to have. And I also appreciate that the home button is right off this touchpad, so it's very easy to get to, or you could, again, use the touchscreen and press it right there. So very, very easy. One complaint, however, is that I'm not seeing any navigation or GPS system in this car. Maybe that's an option you have to pay extra for. Maybe they don't offer it all. Right now, all I can find is this location app, which just shows your longitude and latitude, which doesn't seem that useful to me. So just like everything else in the entire Eclipse Cross, the infotainment system is decent, it's acceptable, I could live with it, but it's not quite as good as the competition. All right, starting off in the 2019 Eclipse Cross, first thing I'm noticing, rear visibility is abysmal because of that taillight bar. All right, turning out onto the road now. This is a little bit of a bumpy area. I'm noticing it's not a very smooth ride or a very quiet ride. But again, sub $30,000, it's not the worst I've ever seen. All right, we're gonna turn on the main road, give it a little gas here. It's not fast. We'll just say that. It is not fast in the least bit. But, it's not supposed to be a sports car. It may look like a Lamborghini SUV, but it's not. So, I wish there were paddle shifters, actually, because that really helps when you want to pass somebody. You can just bop the downshift paddle, move over, and go. It is a CVT, so, paddle shifters and CVTs are generally not the best, but I would still like to have one. Making a quick little U-turn here, again, over some rough road. It's actually pretty easy to maneuver. The steering wheel does not feel pleasant to hold, but it's not difficult to drive. The gauge cluster is actually laid out really well. I love the design. It's sharp, contrasted, easy to see. Now, I did notice when I was sitting in the car in the parking lot and it was idling that there's a lot of idle noise, actually. The engine is not particularly quiet, and the low-speed fans are turning on and off, like, constantly. It's almost annoying. You hear the little whirring of the fan come on, and then it immediately turns off. And then it comes on, and then it turns off. It's annoying. It's really annoying. Oh goodness, where am I? Okay, I'm lost. There we go, right here. Made it. So all around, as I said in the beginning of this review, the 2019 Eclipse Cross is very, very adequate. It's not the best car I've ever seen, but at a price tag of under $30,000 and from a small manufacturer like Mitsubishi, it's also not the worst. It's got some build quality issues, it's got a controversial exterior design, but it does have decent driving dynamics and decent features. So all around, you can buy it if you want, but I would also consider taking a look at some of its competitors from manufacturers like Honda and Toyota. In fact, I'll even put some reviews up on the screen if you want to check out reviews I've done of its competitors. Special thanks to Crown Mitsubishi for allowing me to come and review this Eclipse Cross today. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching.